I think we should be live. I'm going to double check that.
I'm looking on my side as well. I know we're still backstage, right?
No, well, I mean, yes. That seems very official. Thank you, Dane. Yes, we are backstage. We're in the green room right now.
We're in the green room, just chilling with our
Thanks for
coffee.
joining us, everybody. Please have your seats. Take your seats. Get your nice warm coffee in front of you. We'll get going here momentarily. So are we actually live, Dane? Or
It says wait. It says waiting for host to start on LinkedIn at least.
Whoa, that's weird. Because we're definitely started.
Let me refresh.
LinkedIn's giving me a fit. Let's see. Oh, no, I think we're live. Excellent. We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Really super excited to have a great guest for you guys today. Now, I'm going to switch us over to the stage, and as is usual, I didn't do my homework, and there's going to be 3 little areas, and there's going to be one that's not filled. See, I told you it was going to happen. Look, watch. But now I figured out how to solve it fast. Check that out.
I love it.
So we're flying high here on a Friday. Oh, Dane for Danes. IMK Wheat. Do you know who that is?
I have no idea who K Wheat is.
Interesting.
Probably from Denmark, though. Based on the name, Dane for Danes.
Shout out to Denmark, everybody. Got a couple live viewers with us here today. Hey, Dane, go ahead and introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Brian. Thanks for setting this up, and I look forward to having a good chat. My name is Dane Young. I've been in IT for 20 plus years, working in predominantly virtualization and cloud technologies, although everybody that starts in IT starts somewhere and then kind of works their way into their specialty. So I own a company called Young Tech Consultants, and I deliver projects on a professional services capacity, and we have a great time doing it. So very much excited to have a chat today.
Actually, Dane, I don't know if you knew this. We've probably been connected loosely for about a decade or so, but prior to being in the software industry, I was an IT consultant.
Well, there you go. Everybody starts somewhere, right?
So I understand your pain. Yeah, I ended up running a support or services desk of about 20 engineers at one point in time. So I was responsible for keeping them 80+% billable at any given time. So I know the struggle.
Was that in the Boston market, or whereabouts was that?
That was actually in Baltimore, DC, and Northern Virginia for the most part. So I was running around practically, in my car every day, coming to see you.
Yep. And I think when I think back on my career and some of the exciting times and growth opportunities, managed services was definitely a big part of that. And I don't know if that was the nature of the business that you guys were in.
It was.
But I started as an IT professional and then worked for a managed services provider, and just like the territory, the patch, how many customers, how much, radius do you have to cover around your office, like that thrill of every day is something different. You're going to fix, Susie's the CFO and her PC crashed and you need to go get it booted back up, or Joe.
A library checkout system that's not working. No one has any documentation on and no support for it. You have no idea how it works.
Yep. Every day is a different journey, and you're just kind of getting your instructions and going, okay, this, that, and the other, going here and there. And then you learn and grow, and then you lead people and help others do the same. So that's kind of a natural progression.
So the interesting thing about MSPs, if you think about it, is it's like almost like a natural scale thing. So like most people that end up in IT, it's like the same exact story. If you have this story, it's like, do you see those like memes where it's like, tell me you're doing something without telling me you're doing it?
Yeah.
It's like it's tell me you're in IT without telling me you're IT. And it's like, you fix all of your family's computer issues. They all call you and you do it for free.
Yep. Well, I'm looking at the logo on the back of your chair there, and that reminds me of what is most often the IT story, which is the gamer kids who are preteens and teens they're the ones to set up the LANs. They're the ones to help their friends get their software downloaded so that they can all game together. And that was basically my story in my teenage years. Is I was
Yes.
I was the guy in the friends group that had the house and that the people would come to, and we would set up the LAN and we would get everything connected. And at one point, I had six very, very archaic at the time, but these clunker laptops that were just good enough to run Diablo. And it was like, let's come in together.
Hey.
Let's run some games and let's do it on a LAN. So I think that's the natural progression. Like people figure out what they can tinker with or what they can play with, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, you can actually have a career in this field. You can, grow and do other things that help provide an income." So it's pretty cool.
It's really interesting. It's like this has all of a sudden become a marketing ploy to get people into like the IT industry or something.
Early stage career development. If you have these skills, you might be a good fit for IT.
Have you ever been in the aisles of Micro Center? Have you just been wandering around? Well, I got a job for you.
Yeah. It's not around anymore, but we had Fry's in Circuit City, and these other big box
CompUSA.
CompUSA, yeah, for sure.
That was my favorite.
Well, I know this is not necessarily the throwback show, but it's kind of turning into that. So appreciate the walk down memory lane.
Well, yeah, the walk down memory lane. And so I think you probably know Carl Gersh. He was on this show at some point in time. He actually was like the marketing guy behind Ball's energy drinks.
Yep.
He played an intimate portion of my childhood, and I had no idea whatsoever, which was really, really cool. Yeah. I think we had some sort of agenda or whatnot. This is normally like where Nick would like save me. The live show was like much more cohesive.
When Nick Burton saves a lot of people. It's kind of like his job description and day to day is like, how can I save people? And
I didn't realize like how good he made me look, and now I flounder around and I struggle for what to do. I think and look, here's the thing. This thing goes so fast. We're already 30% of the way done if you really think about it. But maybe one topic we could kind of veer off onto a little bit is, we talked about yesterday, kind of like the ebbs and flows and the vendor space specifically. And it's very well possible that some of the people that are listening here today are in the vendor space. So kind of tell me like what's going on from a market perspective. Like I've been in cybersecurity for almost a year now, so I haven't really been paying too much attention about like what's going on like in the EUC space specifically. But I think like it more speaks to the overall situation with technology in general, I would say.
Yeah.
Where like it has a real compounded effect like on the people that use it, but also the people that kind of exist around it. And so we had talked about like the market movement with Citrix, Broadcom, and Omnissa.
Yeah.
And you said you had some interesting takes on that.
I have what I would consider an independent take, which some people may or may not see that as interesting. Other people may actually appreciate it, but I would say it's definitely an independent viewpoint because that's just the nature of who I am. And even when I worked at, let's say, a managed services provider, almost 20 years ago now, and then professional services and consulting for the last 16 plus years since 2010, I've always tried to maintain that independent, unbiased viewpoint that there's ebbs and there's flows and there's changes that are happening in the industry. And ultimately our goal, our job, all of us, whether we're working inside a company or we're working in, like my case, a consulting organization, our goal is to make our customers happy. An IT professional's goal should always be to make their customers lives better. It should be to make them successful. Whether that's, again, giving that Susie analogy. Susie's the CFO. Susie has a fleet of accountants and controllers and everybody else that all have jobs to do, and they all depend on technology. The goal of an IT pro is to make them successful in doing that job. And from our perspective, our goal is to help customers be successful on their EUC journey. And sometimes that looks like an on-prem journey. Sometimes that looks like a cloud journey. In the last 10 years, the running joke is everything is hybrid multi-cloud, because it is. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. No customer has zero SaaS products unless, they're a very niche down customer that's in some segment in, a country that doesn't permit any use of SaaS services, for example. But by and large, most
Where does
customers
that
have a
exist?
mix. It happens from time to time. So I'll give you a funny example. In this world of cloud and everything connected and all this stuff, we had an engagement many years ago. I won't disclose who the customer was, but throughout the entire engagement, they said, no, it's a dark network. There's no way to get to this environment from the internet.
Oh,
All
okay,
of
fair.
all of our applications are segmented and containerized and isolated. And you have these bastion environments, and you have this demarcation and this air gap and blah blah blah. So funniest thing, we're doing this engagement. We're like months into it. We're working around the system using SneakerNet and USB keys to get stuff into the environment so we can install it so it doesn't have connectivity to the internet, blah, 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 blah. All of these things. We finish the project. The project is done, and then they go, okay, great. Well, we need you to come back occasionally, periodically for ongoing support, but it's going to be perhaps in like a break fix capacity where like we might call you and you might need to actually get access to the environment in a moment's notice to provide support. And we're like, well, you've outlined throughout the course of the project that this is air gapped and there's only one way in, and that's physically in your office. So talk to us about this. Like, how is this going to happen? And they're like, oh, we got a solution for that. We have a SOP with a document that's been approved by our CISO, and all we need you to do is sign here, and we'll install this piece of software on your laptop that gives you access to this isolated air gap network. They installed a Cisco VPN client with a Cisco VPN profile to connect into said air gap network from the wide open internet. I couldn't believe it. Like my mind was just blown. I was like, you've been telling us for months there's no way into this environment. It's completely isolated. And you've been lying to us and you're lying to yourselves.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, like that is a level of deterrence.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
For
It's
example, like
security by
buildings,
obscurity. We're going to have
yeah,
security by obscurity. You're signing this document that, you're signing your life away saying that you never had this piece of software installed on your system. Yeah. Security by obscurity.
but also, I mean, like, buildings put fake security cameras on.
Right.
They don't do anything, where they say they have a sign that says like under recording at all 24 hours a day, and it's not.
Yeah. So like in the real world, not that example, that's a terrible example, but in the real world, like what we've been seeing and what we've been experiencing the last, let's call it 10 years, is hybrid multi-cloud. Every customer has a mix and a mash of on-prem and SaaS and public cloud hosted services, and they all just need to just get their job done. And back to my point about, Susie, the CFO, and the controller's office and the accountants, they don't care who's hosting it, where it's coming from, how it's working. They just need to get in and get their job done. And that's ultimately the simplification that everybody is driving towards. So like in this vendor ecosystem, and this is the part that, I spend most of our days in, most of my team is spending most of our day-to-day business in. Customers are making adjustments to their strategy. They're bringing in products and solutions and technologies that they wouldn't have considered before. And then they're asking companies like us, hey, can you figure these pieces out and how we're going to integrate X to Y to Z and then make all this work together? And some would end up getting really ticked off at a particular vendor and say, we're never going to use their technology again. And others would say, no, we're diehards. We love this technology and we're going to stick with it until it's no longer a company. And so you see the mix of both. What's interesting and funny to me, just kind of being the independent, 30,000 foot view, I get to see a lot of environments and I got to have a lot of experiences across the board. I love seeing customers that they were so gung ho to say, we hate this vendor, we're switching off of them. And then fast forward, because everything is cyclical. 5 years goes by, 7 years it goes by. There's a new account team. There's new friends in the space. And they're like, yeah, we're actually going back to that previous vendor that we said we hated and that we had to switch off of because seasons change. The wind changes, things blow in different directions. And every customer ultimately just needs the best product for the best price to address their needs. And a lot of it is feature driven. A lot of it is relationship driven. So it's been fun to watch. I've been watching all of it. So
I got distracted because someone scanned our QR code. I didn't know that it like notifies me when people do that. Check that out. No, we got a really good core group here. And I guess the question I would ask is just kind of like, does this mean? I'm trying to like read between the lines a little bit here. Does this mean everyone's moving to Microsoft now?
No, no, that's not what it means. I think Microsoft would like that to be what it means.
What do you mean they would like? They are making that happen. I mean,
Yeah. I think that Microsoft is the core technology that a lot of IT pros like myself, especially in the gamer space 20 plus years ago. It was all PC gaming. I had a magazine subscription for years, PC Gamer. I'm sure you had the same one, right?
Yes, I love PC Gamer. I read their website still like to this day because I find that the most important thing nowadays in this world that we live in is like a level of credibility, right? Like I can trust them. I know that their content is quality, that it's curated, for example, and that applies more generically as well.
Yep, and this isn't a plug for PC Gamer or even IGN. IGN's a great source as well.
No,
but
plug them, bro. Like I want them to get traffic. Get traffic. Go visit them. Like keep existing. I would hate for them to go away because they can't find a way to monetize the traffic that's going there. I mean,
yeah. Well, the point I was trying to make there was, what we saw 20, 30 years ago was at one point Mac had a big, or Apple rather, Apple had a big push into the education space because they wanted to get a Mac into every classroom. That was kind of the premise. If you train them young, they'll learn Mac, then they'll go into the workforce wanting to be on Mac. PC is kind of the same organic experience. It wasn't intentional, but Windows was the platform for all these games to coexist and run on and network and all of that kind of stuff. And some games were cross-platform, so you could use them on Mac. But like Steam, like that's kind of the genesis of things right now is like Steam is really making a push to say you don't actually need a Windows PC and you can run all these full title games on a Steam box, Steam Deck, Linux distribution. You don't need a full-blown Windows system to do that. But I think that, naturally, if people grew up or they got a lot of experience with Windows systems, particularly troubleshooting, like, I got teenage and preteen kids and they love mods and they love hacking with the software. They love hacking with the games and making the games do something that the game developer didn't intend for the game to do, but they made it modular so that they could. Well, what that's training them to learn is troubleshooting skills. What happens if I add this file here and then all of a sudden my game breaks? Well, you better revert it. You better pull that file out because you just broke your game, right? So it's those basic troubleshooting skills that they're learning on these platforms that, in the Microsoft ecosystem, the more that you learn to troubleshoot Microsoft, the more inclined you're going to be to stay on a Windows platform because you've learned all of that knowledge over the years to be able to troubleshoot the Windows internals. Mark Rasinovich, for example, sys internals. I don't know a single IT pro that has not lived and died by the tools that are on sys internals, right? And when you're debugging, when you're troubleshooting an app issue, you've never seen this app before. Maybe the app developer doesn't even exist anymore, but the business depends on this particular Windows app to do a particular function within their business, and they got a transition period where they're going to be off of it in 18 to 24 months or whatever. But you got to get it up and running for right now in this period of time. What are you going to do? You're going to troubleshoot it.
This is a really interesting conversation. This is like how people get into information technology. It's not the way that I originally thought that we would go with it, but interesting with Mark Rasinovich, right? He's the CTO of Microsoft.
Yep, 100%.
And how did he get there?
He got there through sysinternals, man.
And why did he create sysinternals?
Yep, because people needed troubleshooting tools. That's really the core of it.
There wasn't anything there to help them, and so he started compiling them. And I don't think he built all of them by himself. Maybe he did. I mean, that would be fascinating. But
yeah, so Microsoft, their campus up in Redmond, it's pretty fantastic. Anybody that hasn't had an opportunity to go up there or get a tour, I'd highly encourage it. Microsoft is an amazing company. I've built my career on Microsoft, and they just celebrated 50 years last year. And if there's one company that I'm ultimately thankful for in the development of my career, it's Microsoft. And the thing that I've always loved about Microsoft, and the thing that I think differentiates them in the software space, is that they've distinguished themselves as a platform company and have said, we're going to cover 80%, maybe even 90% of the capabilities that are needed in the broad market, but we need ISVs and other software companies to come and add the value to fill out that rest of the 10 to 20% that customers need to be successful. And I love that vision of being a platform that others are going to build upon, because it keeps a lot of these competitive conversations at bay. Is there customers, or are there customers that can be 100% Microsoft and not have third-party EUC broker like a Citrix or on Omnissa or Parallels or a Nerdio or a Login VSI Hydra? Yeah, okay, those customers do exist. Let's just admit it. And particularly in Windows 365 with Cloud PC, there's a lot of them, and they're rolling out, in a lot of cases, thousands and tens of thousands of persistent virtual desktops in Microsoft's data centers that are called Cloud PCs, and Microsoft loves it because
you're
it's
just saying that
consumption.
companies are just like provisioning these persistent
100%.
machines, and just like
100%.
no one like oversees it or
Oh,
manages it, or
they oversee it. They oversee it and they manage it. But from a broker perspective, it doesn't have a Citrix layer on there. From a
yeah.
broker perspective, it doesn't have an Omnissa Horizon layer on there. It doesn't have those additional management capabilities. It's just all native Microsoft. It's
You're
native.
seeing more of that, or
I have seen personally in the last 3 years, really since the wave of Win365 has really come full circle, I have seen a massive shift away from what would traditionally be the virtual desktop infrastructure deployment model, where you have your master images and you curate those images and you solidify and harden those images.
test
I've
them.
seen testing. I've seen a huge shift of those same customers saying it's just easier for us to just give somebody a laptop. And in this case, it's like a laptop, but it's living in the cloud. So it's always online, it's always patchable, it's always got the security tools up to date on it. It's just hardened in this particular island in the cloud that we have access to, the end user has access to, and it's just simple. It's just brain dead simple. And I love that vision. I think Microsoft really pushed the envelope in a way that Microsoft really had the ability, the muscle to push the envelope and say, if you don't have all of these EUC type of VDI requirements, just go with Win365 Cloud PC. It's a simpler model, and you'll be able to deploy it once and then scale it to thousands. And they have. I've seen customers that are in the tens of thousands with Win365 Cloud PCs, and it's just mind-boggling, because those same customers, a lot of them, had a real struggle for a long, long time to get adoption, to get growth, to get movement, to get the ball moving in the direction that a lot of these vendors want the ball to be moving. And a lot of it was perception, a lot of it was adoption, a lot of it was internal marketing. What does this look like? How does this feel? All of those types of things. And
pricing
a lot of,
model.
pricing model as well. Yeah.
Like
And a lot of that stuff just kind of
we've
goes
gotten
away.
to a point with technology now where it's just like, hey, put your credit card in, and we're going to bill you a little bit at first.
Yep.
And then we're going to bill you a little more, and then we're going to bill you a little more.
Yep. Yep. So you've been in the security space for about a year, but the term has been around a lot longer than that. There's this concept or this term of repatriating your cloud workloads, right?
Yeah.
It's a fancy way of saying we're pulling it back in.
Bringing it back, yeah.
Yeah, we're pulling it back in. I'm engaged with customers who turned on the easy button. It's kind of like a water spigot, right? They got a hose and they got a water spigot. Let's say it's like a fire hydrant. It's not even just like a garden hose, but it's a fire hydrant. They turn that water hose on, that fire hydrant on too fast, and they made the self-service provisioning mechanism too easy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, thousands of users consume this easy button, and they don't know how they're using it. They don't know if anybody's actually logging in to these desktops on a day-to-day basis. But Microsoft's happy to take their money.
Yeah, they get a bill for 150K. Like,
well, 150K is a small bill in my experience. So,
well, I'm saying in a 1,000 user shop or something like that, but it would scale up. But honestly,
it totally scales up. So, like from my perspective, we're going through this journey where it's not just cloud repatriation and figuring out what workloads make sense to run in the cloud, which workloads make sense to run on-prem, but it's also EUC repatriation, to use that term kind of loosely, right? If a customer adopts Win365 Cloud PC at scale, and it took off because it was hugely successful, hugely marketed internally, they need to have all of the management, monitoring, let's call it DEX for lack of a better term, the capabilities around that EUC platform to actually be able to determine, is this actually the right fit? If a developer logs in to push code into said environment 8 hours a month, does it really make sense for us to be paying for this permanent VM to be online in Cloud PC for them to log into this workload 8 hours a month to push a code batch into production?
No, but
Probably not the right
ultimately,
fit.
like, I mean, and maybe you can correct me here, but I know that a lot of times we focus on enterprise because it's just so highly visible. But at the end of the day, and maybe this is like extreme or something, but I believe that the engine of America and maybe a lot of other countries as well is really run off of small business.
100%. Yep.
And so, like, what are these small businesses doing? Are they going out and getting a Win 365 machine, or are they just going and buying a laptop?
Most of them, I know there's always exceptions because every customer that I've talked to or work with kind of reaches that inflection point where it makes sense to do this until you get to a certain point, and then it makes sense to do this until you get to a certain point. But most customers that I would categorize as like the heart and soul of America, the mom and pop shop that's got, 2-3 stores or physical offices and they've got 50 employees.
20, 30 users, something like that.
Most of those customers, their best fit is to go with a managed services provider. In 2026, having an internal IT professional to manage the desktops and the assets and the software for a small shop, let's call it 50 person or less, it doesn't have the economies of scale that a managed services provider would have.
And so when you say like they need to go with a managed service provider, like when you say managed service, are you talking about like a full managed service?
Full
like the managed service provider gives you the desktops to work on as well, like it's part of the price.
They do the patching, they do the software asset management, they do the physical inventory, they do the physical asset management, like peripheral purchases, all of that. They do the help desk, like full outsource IT, right? In that traditional sense.
Like a laptop for the user as well as part of the price, or they buy that?
Or a thin client, or a thin client that connects to a cloud PC. It's not unheard of. There's a lot of MSPs that is their business model. You come into our business service, our service that provides IT for your size segment, your business. And these are the capabilities that you get as part of that.
Interesting. Okay, so they would have a thin client, and then it would attach to their Windows 365 machine?
That's a common deployment model. Yep, 100%.
No way. That's awesome. By the way, a shout out to Christian Brinkoff, man.
Oh, is he on?
365. No.
Oh, because of Win 365. Yeah. No, it's been hugely successful, man.
I will be the first person to admit that I would not have thought that it would have been as successful as it has been. And I would have thought that this was just another thing to end up on the cutting room floor. I saw Azure Virtual Desktop turn into Windows Virtual Desktop.
Other way around, but yeah. Windows Virtual Desktop turned into AVD. Yep.
And then I was like, all right, well, that seems like enough offerings. And then they came out with Windows 365, and I was like, okay, this makes sense, I guess, for small businesses. And then I had like some financial customers of mine at some stage were like, we're moving 150,000 users over to Windows 365. And I was like, wait, what are you doing? What?
And all of a sudden, the boom of the explosive growth is caught your view.
Yeah, and I don't think they don't even talk about Azure Virtual Desktop really anymore. I guess maybe that's applicable to like the very largest of enterprises, or did they just consolidate down under one single brand at this stage?
So they do have two products that they talk about independently of each other because the deployment model is quite different. So, it's funny. You can go back to past VMworlds and Citrix Synergy events and all this kinds of stuff. And one of my favorite panel discussions years and years and years ago, I think it was actually Login or not Login. It was Liquidware that hosted it. Was the age-old debate of persistent versus non-persistent, right? And pooled versus dedicated, and all these things that as EUC professionals we get really nerdy about.
Yeah, nerd stuff. To your point, like
total nerd knobs, right? Give me the nerd knobs and show me where to turn to get the most out of the environment. And from my perspective, in 2026, that's basically what we're talking about. Win 365 versus AVD. It's a persistent versus non-persistent conversation at the end of the day. And a lot of customers, and given your background and companies you've worked at, and I'm not going to divulge too much, but in large financials for the last 15 years, they decided that with their software stack and their tooling and everything else, it just made more sense for them to just deploy a massive fleet of persistent virtual desktops hosted on infrastructure kit in the data center and manage them like laptops, manage them
Mhm.
like physical desktops, and have the same exact patch process, have the same exact
Sure.
security tooling process. It's just a massive amount of VMs that are all independent snowflakes that are then assigned to individual users. Somebody blows up their VM, no problem. We just reprovisioned it, back and running, you're going, right?
Right.
So it's that same concept, but now in the cloud with Microsoft, with Win 365, customers are seeing it as like the easy button. You mean I can use all my same software tools? I can use all my same security tools? Yeah, totally. The only thing you have to sacrifice is your pocketbook, right? If you're willing to pay, because it is a luxury, it is a Cadillac experience, it's a phenomenal service.
What's the differential? And we actually have to wrap. We're beyond
I
time. I told
know.
you this is kind of fly fast, and we had a great audience. We had up to 10 people watching at any given time, which is awesome. Which means
Yeah.
to me it'll do well in playbacks as well. But like, what's the price differential? And then I guess the last question is no, I won't even ask. What's the price differential? And then we'll wrap. We'll say some closing.
All of the calculators and such are out there. So if people want to go run a comparison and go, okay, I have 400 users. This is my workload. This is my image footprint. This is how many VMs we have today to support that. They can go run a comparison against Win 365. Where I see the most savings is in infrequent use environments. So people that don't use it 12 hours a day to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, but they're using it periodically.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's where
Yeah.
you're going to get a better price point by going to a shared model where you don't actually pay for the VM to run 24/7 when it's not actually being
I
used.
see what you're saying.
So if a customer is using their AVD landscape with Citrix, with Omnissa, with whoever, Nerdio, Hydra, whatever, if they're using that 24 hours a day, which nobody's working that much except for maybe me. I work a lot. If they're using it that often, then they would be best to go with the Win 365 Cloud PC model because they're actually going to see savings.
Well,
right?
Answer me the damn question, right? If it costs me $5 for Windows Virtual Desktop and I only use my machine for 9 hours a day, what does it cost me for the same setup?
My VM that I would not be satisfied with anything less than this VM size in Win 365. It's $150 a month.
That's expensive, isn't it?
Well, do the math and extrapolate it out, multiply it by X number of users, and go, well, not everybody needs the VM type that Dane has. Okay, yeah, you're probably right. Let's say that some can get by with the $60 a month VM type.
It's a 50. I would say it's easily a 50% difference. I would imagine in most cases, and you can turn it off. That's what it literally comes down to. It's like, are you willing to turn your machines off?
Yeah, well, and use tools that are available through licensed products, right, to actually make good value out of that. But all of that requires a specific set of skills that, to my point, like the ease of deployment, the ease of scalability, the ease of just rapidly just scaling it up. That's what's taken a lot of these customers by storm. And in some cases, they've seen the bill and they've said, hey, we need to figure out a better strategy around this because, we can't just keep spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. So anyways, that's a long story, but I love the space that we're in. I think that a lot of people get bored with EUC. I'm probably never going to get bored with it because it's always something different. It's always, something new and something innovative that's coming into the market. We got to figure out how does this change the dynamic?
That's really like when we talk about it. Let's cap off. If you want to be in IT, that's the prerequisite. Are you fascinated by this stuff? Does it just motivate you by itself? Because if it doesn't, then go find some other subject matter that does. I'd like to close with saying thank you to our guests that have joined us and listened to us ramble for 30 minutes. It's a huge compliment that people are interested in what we have to say. So thank you for continuing to tune in, and thank you, Dane, for joining me for a couple of minutes for Friday coffee. Look, my coffee's over here. It's cold, but cheers, and everyone have a great Friday. Dane, anything you'd like to close with?
I just want to say thank you to both you as well as both of our LinkedIn communities. I think that a lot of IT professionals' lives are enriched by the people that they get to spend time with, and whether that's online and virtual or in person at events. I enjoy all of the people that are in our space, and that's what keeps me here and keeps me excited to keep going forward. So I appreciate everybody, and thank you all for your time.
All right. Have a great Friday, everyone. We'll